Welcome to Athens City Council. This evening we will be meeting in council committees. The meeting will be called to order by the City Council President, who will then pass discussion over to a respective committee. The chair of the committee will introduce the discussion topics and provide an overview of the issues at hand. If needed, members of the administration will offer brief statements to provide further context. We will then welcome input from the community. Any citizens who wish to speak will be asked to state their name and address, both verbally and on the sign and sheet located at the podium. Individuals will be given one opportunity to share their thoughts, and the committee chair will have the authority to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Once all citizens have had the opportunity to speak within the 15-minute time period allotted for total public participation on each topic, the public comment portion will be closed. Council committee members will then continue their deliberations. There may be additional questions directed to the administration during this time. When the discussion on the topic concludes, the chair will indicate whether legislation will be introduced at the next regular session of council and move on to the next item on the agenda or adjourn the committee if their work is complete. The next committee chair will then call their committee to order, proceeding in the same manner as before. Once all committees have adjourned, City Council will conclude for the evening.
Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday, April 14th at 7:02 p.m. and we are in committees this evening, and then we will move into a special session to discuss legislation. We start this evening with the Committee of the Whole, and I'd like to welcome SOPEC, the Sustainable Ohio Public Energy Council, to the podium for a presentation. Thanks for being here, Luke.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. I want to update you guys on a few things tonight. Actually, timing is pretty great. We just got locked in on pricing. We'll get to that in just a second, but also want to celebrate Athens and share some updates organizationally that I think are worth celebrating. As you may or may not know, Athens is one of the 3 founding members of SOPEC. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary last year, the other 2 being Amesville and Athens County. We now represent over 40 political subdivisions, including cities, municipalities, watershed districts, sewer districts, library districts, park districts, and a variety of public institutions across the state of Ohio. So we now represent Cleveland, Dayton, Arlington, Gahanna, but also Athens, Athens County, Chansey, and many, many more communities that we're very proud here locally to serve. So it's wonderful, and we've also been a leader in green energy nationally, and so we're happy that that leadership and the spirit of what Athens helped create in the first place is carrying on to other communities across the state and really being recognized nationally for that work. So we represent about 1 in 5 of the green power communities, which is an award from the National EPA, and all of the award winners in the state of Ohio are SOPEC members. So thank you again for your leadership on that front. Also want to celebrate some things happening here locally. Look forward to some more announcements coming soon, but we recently made a further commitment to our presence in the city of Athens. We have 4 offices around the state. We are hosted at the Innovation Center. We're also in Arlington, Cleveland, and Dayton. But we're purchasing property for the first time in the city of Athens, and we have purchased 136 Columbus Road. If you recall, it's currently a property that needed some love, the former Russell service station, and that is going to be a regional charging hub. So we have been awarded 2 EV charger grants from the federal government in the amount of $16.6 million to connect Southeast Ohio with Western Ohio. So the 2 main nodes of that project are Athens and Dayton. So trying to connect those 2 communities, but the project extends all the way up to Muskingum County and all the way down to Meigs and Gallia to the south. So We'll have a number of chargers to help folks decide where they want to travel, not based on charging infrastructure, and literally putting many of our communities on the map. So we're happy to celebrate that, and we hope this facility will enable us to do charging at a much more robust way than is currently available. The fire station and many other city properties are also part of that grant. So look forward to more announcements on that front. Obviously, some headwinds in Washington at the moment as it relates to federal grants, but it is our intent to move forward on these projects. So we're excited to be investing in the city, excited for our office to have a permanent home and for us to do big things. It is our intent to make the property true to its heritage as a fuel station, but adding an EV shine to it. So really excited to see the old neons turn to LEDs, see the pumps turn to EV pumps, and let the Appalachian Highway electrify going west. So I want to share that. We'll have some official announcements coming soon on that, and I'm sure there'll be some events surrounding that as well. But that's pretty recent and exciting to share. As it relates to pricing, as you know, we have a lot of flexibility in the way that we procure our power. We have a long-term contract with AEP Energy. We actually have an exclusivity agreement with AEP Energy, and we have mechanisms in our contract to keep them honest as they supply power to us. But it does allow us to be very nimble as it relates to the market. There's been a lot of turmoil in the market as of late, and so we've taken advantage of those moments to procure power, and we are confident we're going to be below the standard service offer moving to this next cycle, and a variety of options for consumers. So even with the carbon fee, which, as you recall, was adopted by 76% support, the first in the nation. Very proud of that as well, and very happy to celebrate what that's been able to provide to the city and the resources. And I want to pack that more in a second. But the new rates, I can go and share those now. They are posted on our website. But the Athens rate, inclusive of the carbon fee, is... Actually, Jessica, I'm looking at this. I think this might be slightly off. I believe it's 9.957. If you want to confirm that while I'm talking here, yeah, inclusive of the carbon fee. And the step down to brown, as we call it. So if you're looking apples to apples, what brown power is, we decided as a community and a group of communities to make our default 100% green power and renewable energy. We have enabled folks within the program, if they would like to not take advantage of our green power programming, to have a brown power option. Very few folks select to do that, but it is available. That is at 9.461. And I'll confirm these numbers. They're in the ballpark, but I think I'm seeing some things here that make me question if they're not exactly right. So we do expect the utility service offer to be double digits this year. So AP Ohio, you're starting to hear some news coming out of Columbus. That is a direct result of the capacity auctions. So there's different component costs to electricity. I don't want to go too far in the weeds on that tonight, but one of those is the way that power is provided with reliability. And that auction went tenfold as an increase this past year. So I will say very briefly that you may hear a lot of noise about what the cause of that is, but I'll tell you what it's not. It is not renewables. Renewables have not been deployed to the level that they are being sought in the state, or the way that developers are trying to deploy them in the state, so, and beyond Ohio. So there is a pipeline of projects that have not yet been built. So the absence of capacity is not due to renewables not delivering on power. It's due to renewables not being present in the marketplace on large scale. So just want to clear that up, because there's going to be a lot of noise about that as folks really recognize this issue, which is going to be affecting the Eastern Seaboard pretty heavily come this summer. So you will see, and I'm happy to say all of our SOPEC communities are going to be below the standard service offer. We've locked in most of them at this point, and we're happy to celebrate that while embracing green power. So I do want to highlight a few more things real quickly. I mentioned so savings over the lifetime of the aggregation program. So SOPEC, I'll just take a snapshot here. The last 4 years, 2020 to 2024, we have seen $675,000 of savings just in the city of Athens. So we are certainly happy to help provide that program for residents. And then the public pricing program for Athens has saved almost $500,000 as well. So I mentioned that, and I'm going to come back to the carbon fee here now. I celebrate the leadership that council and the community with the voters and the administration certainly have taken in embracing the carbon fee. You are very well positioned to weather the storm that's coming with capacity charges. Other communities that have not embraced solar and renewables or battery backup or have a much higher capacity charge. So as rates go up, the fact that you have solar producing power at the time when the demand is most stressed is going to show up a lot in your savings. So that's great for the environment, but it's also going to be really great for the municipal budget moving ahead. So I want to share that and applaud you for the leadership on that front and the constituents and residents for voting overwhelmingly in favor of it. It was certainly the right thing to do for the environment, but it definitely is the right thing to do as a long-term investment in infrastructure and resources for the city infrastructure as well. So you should see a lot of savings. And again, this is savings against what you would have had impact your budget. So I just want to share that relative to other communities that you guys are better positioned because of the investments you have made. So encourage you to do more. You guys do great work. And happy to see what happens next with the carbon fee and its deployment. If folks ever want to see what the carbon fee balance is, that's posted on our website. SOPEC holds those funds and releases them as the city requests them. So there are a few projects I'm sure that'll be coming soon, but it's already been deployed. The first project was the substation to help support the Athens wastewater treatment solar system. So we were happy that the carbon fee was able to help offset that cost and bring that project to life. So that's a real quick snapshot of where we are as an organization. I'm happy to go in depth another time, but just want to share with you guys on price that we have locked in for the city. There's probably a lot of anxiety with folks seeing in the news that they need to be proactive, but I'll say that within the city of Athens and Athens County generally, most of Athens County actually, most of the communities are represented by SOPEC, that we have locked in power at a very competitive rate and that residents can rest assured that they have renewable power. Folks are always able to shop on the open market, apples to apples. Energy Choice through the state has different suppliers having options. I would caution folks, though, if you are shopping on your own, to make sure you're looking at the fine print. So things like fees, if you were to leave the program. A lot of them are variable pricing. You have one price when you sign up and then another price the next month. So our price is fixed for the next 12 months. It will not change. And so if constituents are shopping, by all means, but keep that in mind to read the fine print and make sure that you are. Some of them also have a monthly fee attached to it. So maybe the rate may be artificially low, but there's a monthly flat fee attached as well. So if residents have any questions, certainly reach out to us. And we're happy to provide that information. We are a public entity. Like I say, we're governed by the communities we serve, but we primarily are serving the folks who've never shopped. So aggregation is a tool for folks who do not shop on their own to set a new default offering. And with that, we are there to provide that support and policy objectives, including renewable power. One other thing I'll leave you with, just to prepare your constituents and yourselves as well, there are shifts at the federal level as it relates to energy policy. I'm going to avoid talking about some of them today, but one I will highlight is that the LIHEAP program, or the Low Income Heating Assistance Program, has been cut of all its staff. So we have yet to hear what's going to happen with the funding that was assigned to that office, but that is a program that's important to a lot of members of our region, helping folks when they get behind on their bills get caught back up so they have access to electricity in the heat of summer and the cold of winter. So I'm not sure what the policy solution is going to be with that, but just flagging that that is on our radar and something that all of you as direct servants yourselves probably should be aware of as well, that that's going to have a direct impact on folks in our region. So again, it's our goal to get the most competitive price we can while embracing renewable energy as a pathway forward. We're also very aggressively looking for local assets in the state of Ohio and in our neighboring communities. So it's our goal in the not so distant future that we will be able to provide more and more local resources. But at present, most of our power is coming through what's called renewable energy certificates, which are provided through resources across the country, frankly, that are of high quality, so mostly wind, solar for us. But happy to answer any questions or turn the mic back over. Thank you all very much. Again, very happy to always represent Athens as one of our members, and glad to celebrate Athens, one of our founding members. There's a lot of great things happening that are a direct result of Athens deciding that there was a better option to the private broker model, and we've embraced it. And communities large and small are now at the table with us, and I think that's incredibly exciting that we're able to take that on. I will highlight, I guess, one more thing real quickly. Our community grants program has been growing pretty robustly. We've hired some phenomenal staff in that department. We now have 4 folks in our grant team, and they have been successful in the last year getting 6 different federal grants. We are now working on private grants, some state grants, some in direct support of our communities. Working on things like lights in the park, or maybe EV charger infrastructure like we're already doing with some of the other communities. So it's really up to the communities what their needs are. One of our grants that we have, it's been awarded, but we're waiting to hear where it stands, is to help with critical water infrastructure. Something, again, Athens has had a leadership role in taking first steps, but looking at comprehensively what the options are to help communities across the board. Some of our members, just to highlight, half their annual budget goes towards electricity. Again, half of their municipal budget goes to electricity costs, and particularly small villages and some of our surrounding counties. When that moves a few percentage, that has a real hit. So the more of that we can move to renewable assets, to where they have more stability and more local generation, the better for everybody. So thankfully, Athens has taken steps to insulate themselves from some of those impacts, but did want to highlight that that is going to be something you're hearing a lot about in the region. So we're working with all of our member communities to help everybody become more prepared and resilient, both financially and sustainability as communities. So again, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Selfridge. If you don't mind staying at the podium, as a presentation tonight, I'm going to turn to council first to see if there are any questions. Member Clodfelter?
Mr. Selfridge, I wanted to thank you very much for your excellent work. I didn't even know about those suburbs in Columbus or Cleveland. That's just great that you're expanding so much further north. And that you're saving Ohioans so much money, and I really hope you get more communities as members, because this is just great that you are providing renewable energy to so many people. At some point, I'd be interested to know if you've taken like a head count of how many people in Ohio are now SOPAC members, not communities, but people. But, you know, not urgent. But I also was just curious, if somebody in Athens like pays attention to what you're talking about and says, okay, maybe I'll finally get solar on my house, can they call you? Or not?
So they can certainly call us. We wouldn't be the direct resource for installing solar, but we certainly can provide information on finding those resources. So Athens has embraced SolSmart designation. Mm-hmm. So again, accolades there, one of the first to embrace SolSmart Gold in the state. And that means that the red tape that it requires to install solar as a homeowner or a small business owner has been greatly reduced, and the transparency of what's required to install has been greatly reduced. So that is something that I believe is on the city's page, how to file for permits. I would recommend another nonprofit that's fairly active, which I actually helped start in Ohio, called Solar United Neighbors. They do bulk buying for residents and do a lot of community education. So if you just want to become smarter and more informed and a wise consumer, that's a really great resource as well. But we're certainly happy to help folks learn of those resources directly. So they can go to our website and find those links there as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you want to respond to the rates?
Yes, I want to make sure we're clear on that.
Sure, go ahead.
It is 9.956 now for the new rate, and the current rate is the limit is 9.057.
All right, so our rate is going down for Athens, and the new rate is 9.956. Is that correct? 9.9?
9.956 with our.
So 9.956. So 0, if you're doing, depends where you put the decimal point here, but 9 cents and 9 tenths and 5 6. Thank you. And the present rate, again, Jessica, is 10.057. So Athens actually seeing a reduction in rates, which we're happy to do. That new rate will take effect in June. So with your meter read cycle in June, some of you it may be right ahead of June, the very end of May, just depends on when the meter read is. It's a little goofy on utilities, how they consider that, but that'll be for the next 12 months, which is the utility supply year. We try to buy against the supply year, so we know what the utilities auctions and their prices are, so we have something to compare to. Our last purchase was a 24-month product. And so that was a great price for the first year. We had a lot of savings in it. Next year wasn't as good a price. The market dropped dramatically. So the combined savings over the 2 years was still a savings for residents, but we're now firmly below the market again. So happy in real time, not even over the duration of the contract, in real time we're going to be below the market price. So happy to share that and happy to say that it is the smart choice for residents to feel comfortable and confident with it.
Excellent. Other questions from City Member McCary?
Thanks very much. Yep. I was wondering if you've heard of any other federal cuts to programs that might impact energy offerings in Ohio?
Yeah, I was in Washington actually about 2 weeks ago with community choice aggregators across the country, and we met with a lot of congressional staff members, a lot of nonprofits that are working on that. So a lot of things under consideration for cuts right now. There have been a lot of federal grant programs that have been frozen, and there's a lot of encouragement for folks to advocate on their behalf to make sure those programs are reinstated, including some of our own. I think it's worth watching, and as consumers, if you care about the income tax credit, which helps folks install solar, currently at 30% through the end of 2030, or has a sunset provision relative to the amount of market share that renewables have. That is certainly something that would be appropriate for residents to weigh in on. And so that would probably be front of mind is the ITC and the production tax credit as it relates to renewable energy assets and their ability to access tax credits to come to the marketplace. But there's certainly a lot of things that are in flux right now, and that's a whole other conversation of what's happening in Washington. But those are the ones that are probably top of mind.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Other members? Yes, Member Swank.
Well, good to see you again.
Of course.
If I had been a betting man, I'd have lost big time, because if someone told me you were going to come in here and tell us that our rates were less next year than this year, I'd have told them they were crazy. Quite honestly, and that's good to see. That's about $12 savings a year for the average customer, but still, it didn't go up like everyone else did. You picked the perfect day to come here, because about 5 o'clock today, I got an email, as did Clerk Walker, and the email simply said, upcoming adjustments to your electric bill from AEP. And they're projecting that the average customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours a month bill will go up over the course of a year, $324. $324. I just want to say this for public consumption and what we're teaching out at the high school, financial literacy. Anybody who's paying the standard service offer is throwing money away. It's like walking into a car dealership and paying sticker price. I mean, it's that crazy. So whether you get on SOPEC or you shop around, you can do much better. And the rate that SOPEC is quoting for next year of 9.956 is very, very competitive what's currently available on the apples to apples. You're within a penny. And that's great, because you're right, in that second year it varied as much as 4 to 6 cents. So I'm really pleased that you're doing this. The other thing is, if you could tell us a little bit more about the plans for what's happening down on Columbus Road, because Columbus Road is suddenly becoming somewhat of an attractive entry into Athens, where not too many years ago it was quite the eyesore.
Well, I live on the other side of 550, so that's the way I come into town quite often. And so we certainly welcome the opportunity to create a gateway, and we certainly see this as a project towards a gateway for the entrance of one of the main corridors for the city. That is part of the EV corridor grant. We were awarded 2 grants. We believe we're the only entity in the country to receive 2 CFI grants in round 1. We received round 1A and 1B. The corridor was round 1B, which enabled us to deploy level 3s. So we're hopefully going to have state-of-the-art charging down there to where folks can charge. It's also my intent for folks to have pull-through charging. They may sound like something novel, but a lot of the charging infrastructure right now is not built for trailers. And so we're at the next wave of charging infrastructure, and so we're looking at an opportunity, and that site's really unique for that we can use pull-through access for folks that are pulling their boat or their RV or whatever it might be, or trailer full of tools for the tradespeople. And so we're looking at that site being very attractive, maintaining the character, as I said, what it is. It's great that it's already green and white. Those are our colors, like a lot of things around here. And so we're going to embrace that. We're going to look for a lot of renewable assets there, but you will see public access for EV chargers in a way that facilitates that being a main entryway for Athens, and a place that's a destination for folks that are traveling from Columbus southward through Southeast Ohio. Athens is going to be their preferred route with the chargers. We are putting them in other places as well, but for a lot of folks who are coming to Athens, and frankly, the population in Athens, giving them another option to charge. And again, working in partnership with the city, there's going to be a lot of chargers going up around town that are going to have the smartest deployment possible. So it's right-sizing chargers for what makes sense. Maybe it's a level 1, which is a 120 outlet in some locations where there's long-term parking. Other places, it may be a 240 outlet. If you're going to have dinner downtown here on Court Street or even down Columbus Road, that may make sense. We're going to be there for a few hours. And other places, level 3s, where you may want to stay 15, 20 minutes tops, charge up as much as you can, and head on to the next community on your way. We're going to provide options for all those. So it really is going to be a chance for us to shine a spotlight on that property. And we actually have a pending grant application for brownfields remediation as well. So it is our hope, and we actually have consultants on the ground right now doing that analysis in preparation for the cleanup. So it is our desire to clean up that site and make it a asset and an attribute for the community. So we are very excited about that and making it part of that entryway for the city.
Great, thank you.
Other questions from Mr. Selfridge from City Council? Yes, Member Clodfelter.
I really applaud you for taking on the brownfield cleanup. So many corporations run away from that. or don't even get a site because of that. Will it be possible to clean it up before anybody is working there all day, or is that not a site where you'll have office workers?
So we will, and it's likely we will have the phase 2 of the EPA study completed, and remediation will have occurred prior to us putting staff there. But thank you for the question. That's well placed. But yes.
Any other questions from City Council? City Administration, you have any questions? Yes, please, Mayor.
Not a question, not a comment. This is something that we've benefited from through SOPEC for 10 years now. We were just awarded an award recognizing the water treatment plant for 10 years now has taken advantage of peak shaving or load shedding, which is a way in which you know that there's going to be a period of peak demand on your electric system, whether it's at the water treatment plant or somewhere else in the city. And since we have a great solar array on that water treatment plant, as well as the fact that a lot of that water that is processed goes up to reservoirs, so we can actually shut the pumps down for a period of time by taking advantage of that. Our load demand charges drop down as well. So, but that all came through SOPEC 10 years ago to say, you know what, there's a way in which you can, shave, use peak shaving to decrease your consumption during a high volume consumption period of time. And so it's worked for us in amazing ways, but we just got awarded again from our energy provider a plaque saying, yay, you've done this for 10 years straight, you've saved a whole lot of money. So.
Treasurer, anything tonight? Thank you for being here, Mr. Selfridge. Appreciate
Thank you very much, and thank you all. Remiss if I didn't mention the mayor as our current chair of our board, so thank you to his service, and prior to him, Commissioner Schmiel serving in that role as well. So Athens has had a very direct role in leadership of the organization, and many of you around this table and the dais have had direct relationship and involvement and support. So we definitely are grateful for the partnership and the leadership we see from the city as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on now to the Planning and Development Committee. This is chaired by Member Swank, who is joined by Members Thomas, Spielness, and Wood.
Oh, there you go. Oh, my God. Okay, the Planning and Development Committee has 3 items tonight. The first one deals with Hilltide Ventures LLC, and I'm going to read a communication we received from the Planning Commission relative to this, then open it up to the administration for further comment, the public, and then conversation, deliberations by the members of the committee. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 to make a recommendation to Athens City Council to rezone 8 parcels from R1 or R2 to R3 for a 50-plus unit multifamily affordable housing project. The Planning Commission based its recommendation on the following considerations. The project's scope. The subject site encompasses 18.45 acres with 5.13 acres located within the city of Athens and 13.32 acres in Athens Township. Number 2, zoning compatibility. The proposed R3 zoning is consistent with the adjacent Monticello Village development and surrounding land uses. Let me interject here. This is up at 111 Hooper Street. So if you're going down Richland Avenue, you get to what used to be the Peddler and the Packer. You make a left, that's Hooper Street. Number 3, comprehensive plan alignment. The project advances the Athens 2040 comprehensive plan's goals related to affordable housing and urban infill. Point 4, housing demand of submitted market study projects a 6% capture rate, indicating strong demand for affordable housing in the area, a topic we've heard much about in the last 4 to 5 months. Number 5, public transit considerations. While the nearest bus stop is a half-mile away, the Commission discussed potential transit service expansion in coordination with HAPCAP. And finally, number 6, infrastructure concerns. The Commission acknowledged concerns regarding sewer capacity and pedestrian infrastructure, which will require further review during the development process. So at this point in time, what Council is considering is a zoning change. Should that be granted, then it goes to, I believe, Title 41 consideration. And I'll turn it over to the mayor.
You summed it up well.
Easy to read. Members of the public, including council members in our audience today.
Beth Clodfelter, South Shannon Avenue. I'm curious, who is the developer behind this time?
Well, that gentleman just behind you,
Okay.
and he would be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have this evening.
Okay, and I guess I have one for the developer, and I am no architect, but I was admiring the design that was facing us on the dais. And in the middle, there are two kind of vertical brown sections with no roof. May I ask if that would be problematic in any way for the people there?
Taylor, what she's looking at is the image that we see here in front of us. If you're not, oh, you may have it on the monitor there.
I do. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the City Council's Planning and Development Committee. So this design is very strictly conceptual at this point. That has a flat roof in the middle, and you're seeing two separate stairwells just for folks to get to the second and third floor. There was another question in there. I'll just, I guess, introduce a little bit. So I'm Taylor Cook with Hilltide Partners. Hilltide Partners is the 22nd largest developer in the country by starts as of 2023, which is the latest data in which we were ranked. We've done developments throughout the country. Specifically, I am newer to Hilltide. I've been there since about September, and I'm leading up their development efforts in the Midwest, including Ohio as kind of the focal point. Previously, I was the Director of Multifamily Housing at the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. I also worked for a nonprofit, National Church Residences, that do senior affordable housing development. So I've been on the development side before. I know the LIHTC rules really well, inside and out. This proposal is really focused on bringing affordable housing to an area that has been demonstrated by the Ohio Housing Finance Agency as an area in which the difference between the market rents and the LIHTC rents is significant. So what that means is LIHTC housing here is producing a significant affordability for folks who would be living at one of our properties. Also, this is one of the few sites in the city of Athens where, while it is not R3 zoned currently, it is adjacent to R3. And so that speaks to the nearby uses. There's no other area that we have been able to find where it would be appropriate for the use that we're prescribing here.
Other questions or comments from members of the community? Members of the Planning and Development Committee? We'll just work our way down. Mr. Wood.
I noticed in the presentation it was mentioned that we have 5.13 acres in Athens and about 13 in Athens Township. Will this require us to do another annexation similar to what we did up the hill for the other annexation?
Cable Lane, sorry.
Cable
Cable
Lane,
Lane, thank you.
yeah.
Thanks, Jess.
It's up the hill.
Thank you for the question. So this proposed project could fit within the 5.13 acres that is within the city of Athens limits and subject to the zoning regulations. That being said, assuming we are able to secure this zoning change, we will be pursuing an annexation that would allow that full 18 plus or minus acres to be part of this site. We're not planning to do, double the number of units. It would just allow us to have a little bit more flexibility in the site plan.
To that end, and I don't want to speak for the administration, but I believe the mayor and I know Director Stone has been very forthright, and when it comes to annexation, that we're looking at annexation in terms of providing location for housing, in particular single-family homes. Maybe the mayor would want to address that.
No, you hit on it, and,
Yeah.
and you're spot on. I mean, a couple things with annexation. Annexation would require that our city utilities service that particular annex area in the city of Athens, but equally important, being mindful of the opportunity that an annexation may place at us with being able to have affordable single-family dwellings going in said area. That is not a conversation that we had with Hilltide, but certainly something, depending on what happens, that we could have that conversation in the future. Because 18 acres, is it a remaining 18 acres? Or 18 total? 18 total. So the 5 acres plus that they are going to use for this, and then to annex the remainder, that's a lot of land. So we'll see what opportunities are provided.
But for right now, the 5.13 would be adequate for the project that you're proposing. Okay. Member Spelness.
Yeah, and I thank you for coming back. You all came to the Affordable Housing Commission. You did a nice job. There was another spot that was also interested, and you kind of backed out and came back to us. So I'm curious how much difference the layout is from what you had showed us. Because if I remember correctly, there were some single-family houses as a possibility, and I'm wondering if that's not in this round. And furthermore, if you're going to have single-family homes as a part of a LIHTC project, it's my understanding that by the LIHTC rules, they could conceivably become home ownership, not just home, and from rental to ownership. And if that is something that you're considering doing.
So we are considering partnering to do single-family homes. Just to be clear, Hilltide Partners does not have experience doing single-family development. We have, all of our portfolio is multifamily development. What we have suggested previously and are still committed to discussing is, as the mayor had mentioned, this is a lot of land. We don't need the full acreage to do what we're proposing with this project. So we do have additional acreage that we could use for single-family development. And it would be our suggestion that we could partner with somebody who is better at bringing single-family development than we are. So we could do that through conveying some of the land. We could do that through a land lease. There are multiple different mechanisms for doing that. And there are a lot of different financing options. So what's different between the original proposal that we brought all the way back in November, it feels like a year ago, the only thing that's different is the underlying financing structure. So the Ohio Housing Finance Agency has a couple different funding rounds each year. The previous funding round, well, it's the one that's going on right now, was the 9% tax credit round. And as you know, there were several applicants who had projects in Athens County, which is limited in the number of applications that it can receive. So we retooled this application using the new state credit. So this has been around for about 2 years, and it is a supplement to a 4% credit, which is worth a little bit less. So you think that, if you combine these two resources, it might get you to the level of a 9% credit. But it has not fundamentally changed our number of units, our bedroom distribution, the rents. It's just the underlying structure.
So, okay, one other question. My big objection when you guys first came to us is transportation. Because as everybody here knows, I live near Kershaw Green, and we have a big problem with them having no sidewalks. They do have bus, though, at least. We had to work that out, but there's no sidewalks. And you're way out there, away from everything. And I'm concerned about the access for people who may not have cars or not reliable cars and needing transportation. Now, I did see something about you'd work with HAPCAP to see if you could get some bus out there. It seems like it's so far out of the way, though. I'm curious whether HAPCAP could afford to have, and I would like to see an assurance of that before. I mean, I'm willing to change I'm willing to vote for a change in zoning, but I'm not real comfortable with how this is all going to pan out. So answering the transportation, how this will affect the people who live there, and that would be important to me. So.
What would be interesting is to see how the folks from Monticello Village get to town, because it's just right across the street. Secondly, there are sidewalks about halfway there. I've measured them.
Yeah, about halfway there.
Yeah, about halfway
But
there.
still a long way.
And it's also making the assumption that people that live in these type of places don't have transportation. I think we're overstating that. But that would come through the Title 41 process, I would guess.
Yes.
Right now, we're just considering the rezoning. I do have a question, though, about the timeline on this and the competitiveness of the program. When would it, what would be the timeline? The program deadline is when, if you were granted or if you were awarded the money, and then the project, when would it start and when would it finish?
Sure. So this round is supposed to start in late July and then have announcements in November, right around Thanksgiving time. So it would be a nice early Christmas gift for us if we were able to secure credits from OFA. After that, we would have to submit a final application. So OFA splits it into two pieces. They have a proposal application where you need to show conceptually that it's feasible. And then if you receive an award, then you have a few months to be able to demonstrate a permit set of architectural plans, your other third-party reports. Obviously, we would need to get an engineer out here. We're going to do soil borings and make sure that this project is structurally sound before we build it. So assuming that we get this rezoning, we are able to submit an application and we are successful, I would assume that this would be sometime in mid to late 2026 that you would see a Title 41 site plan before the Planning Commission. And then our goal would be to close on financing by the end of 2026. So that would mean a cold start for construction, but something we think is feasible.
So some of the things questioned today would be things that the next elected council would be considering. All we would be responsible for at this point in time is acting on the zoning recommendation. Okay. Member Thomas.
I have a couple questions. One is, because I think it's going to come up in questions, do you have like a quick answer or explanation as to how LIHTC land is determined by the state? It gets really confusing when people are talking, and I'm not sure everyone really fully. And I know it's not an easy.
Sure, it is. It's not easy because it depends on what round you're in and what pool you're seeking funds under. Under these guidelines, there are a couple of geographic criteria. The concept is that if you have limited resources, the state wants to, really the only thing that the state can control is design elements and where it's located. And for real estate, the old adage, location, 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 right? So they're looking at areas of opportunity. So this is census tracts that score highly in terms of so access to entry-level jobs, school performance indices, median home values. It's a whole host of things that go into this index. And then the second one is discount to market, which is something that I sort of talked about earlier. It's looking at the difference between the LIHTC rents and the market rents. So LIHTC rents are determined on a county basis, or if you're in a metro area, it's the metro. But I don't need to tell you that in Athens County, you're going to see rents that vary significantly depending on what part of the county you're in. So in this specific zip code and this specific census tract, there's a high opportunity index and a very large discount to market rent. So at least what the agency is hoping by incentivizing folks in this area is that it will be developing affordable housing that's really going to produce affordability and give residents the opportunities they need to uplift themselves.
Thank you. My second question is, I think it's more for council, is when watching the Planning Commission meeting, Mr. Mott asked about whether we could do a conditional rezoning. And I'd wondered that before, and I'm wondering, is that something we can legally do? Can we actually do that so that if it doesn't go through, we don't want to go through with it later, it can be changed, or how difficult that process is?
I think I saw Mr. Mott here.
I saw him too.
Thought about leaving early. I guess it's a good thing I didn't. I don't have a direct answer for you. I expect Director Eliason would. My impression, being not the expert, is that you can grant a number of conditional rezonings My thought was, you have multiple developers who are approaching you right now. I understand that City Council is interested in having some of this developed, but I also understand that it would be foolish to lock up all of these areas of land into R3, which is what all of these developers need, knowing that only one or two of them are going to possibly be awarded within any calendar year. And then you have all this other stuff that you can't do anything with until it changes hands and someone comes back and asks to rezone it. So from that perspective, I'm pretty sure that you could grant a conditional rezoning, that the rezoning is conditioned on the applicant receiving the LIHTC award.
Member Thomas, would you want to follow up with the law director, or would you like me to? It's up to you.
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was one of my concerns with the Pomeroy Road deal. If they didn't get it and it was zoned R3, what about the next person? Where folks from Spire, Mr. Taylor's group seem to be reputable people. We've done a lot of research on them, but what about that entity that we don't know? And that was my concern. So we'll see what Member Thomas finds out from the law director, and perhaps that can shape how we shape the ordinance. Said 2 or 3 questions. Another one, or is that?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Jessica speaks my mind on the issue, as do you. Glad that Mr. Mott's aware and ahead of the ball on that. That's good to hear. Yeah, curious what happened at the Pomeroy Road development. Like, what is the zoning condition on that right now? And also related to the question of the multiple applications, are we going to be stuck in a position of picking winners and losers in that, or can we have multiple? What's the onus on us for that?
That Pomeroy Road thing has been tabled, and we don't pick the winners of the LIHTC application. That's the folks from the state. They would award who they feel is the best.
And they
and there are a limit, as Taylor said, there's a limited number of those.
There's, I believe we understood there's one per year. Yeah, just wondering if these decisions affect that application, make it easier for them, et cetera.
So these decisions certainly impact that. One of the things that Hilltide, that Spire Development, the Pomeroy Road developer, that others have to do is they have to be able to demonstrate to the state that they have or can obtain appropriate zoning where they want to put their project. So while City Council, I don't think, is in a position to pick winners, you can certainly pick losers. If you decide, you know what, this project is just a bad idea where it is, by denying zoning, I think you can effectively guarantee that project doesn't move forward and that it won't even be LIHTC funded. Is that right, Taylor?
Yep.
That's right.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks to both of you. Second item on the agenda involves, and this is the second time we've discussed this, involves a property at 37 and 37.5 Woodward Avenue. This is the property up on the edge of the hill that was asking to for use of the right-of-way for a patio that replaced the front yard, and there were many opinions expressed on that. So following our procedure, I'll start with the mayor, and we'll go to the public and then members of council.
You know, this was discussed before in terms of this particular property that has a non-conforming parking pad on it right now. So that's what council is now going to discuss amongst yourself about this special use permit.
Members of the public and members of council in the audience. Members of the committee. Well, I'm looking at the picture right now from outer space and have visited this property multiple times. And when I'm looking at this picture, I look down below it, and there's an obvious area that looks like mud that is washed out. And I go a little bit further and I get down to Forest, and a little further I get down to Fort Street. And there's a house on Fort Street that used to belong to a good friend of mine, a house I visited very often. And then I've been there on the wrong day, I would be no more, because that was the house that the boulder fell down off the hill and smashed. Thank goodness I wasn't visiting that day. The reason I reference all that is we're all familiar with the situation we have over on Joneswood right now. And what has happened is this individual on Woodward Avenue put in a patio, a large patio, about, well, from this wall to about where that thing in the carpet is there, from the dais all the way to the back wall, what used to be a front yard. What makes it particularly galling, and I'll use that word, is that in the summertime, this past summer, as the construction was going on, more than one individual in the neighborhood contacted the code office. And the code office went out and told them they couldn't do it. They would have to come before council and get a use of the right-of-way permit. But they went ahead and did it and put in a curb. I contacted code, talked to a code officer, and yes, indeed, code did go out at least once and say, don't put it in. Yet they went ahead and put it in. I couldn't tell, because I'm not an engineer, if it was our curb, meaning the city's, or a private curb that had been put in. So I talked to the folks in the street department. Street department didn't put in. They checked all the work orders, and there was no work order for a curb on Woodward Avenue. The developer put it in himself. A lot of problems here. And I kind of heard a lot of people, both in the audience. One member was here last time we talked about this. I see him again today. I heard from the administration. I heard from council that we just, you know what, we can't be doing this. Again and again and again. Violating code, asking for forgiveness later. And in this case, taking out a perfectly good grass yard and putting in more concrete, which leads to more water runoff from the top of a precipice that's already slip prone. So in talking with the clerk and the law director, but particularly the law director, we have some options. One option is we can put this on the agenda next week, take it through the 3-reading process and vote it yay or nay. Another option is we can put an ordinance on the agenda directing the law director to file civil action against this individual. So that's setting the stage. So I'll open it up to other members of council for your thoughts before I go any further with it. It's your ward.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, it's ugly as sin. Wasn't well done, and you know, you speak my mind on all the obvious issues. I'd be keen to take option 2.
Member Svelmus?
As you mentioned, we have had more than once people who do what they want to do, don't bother with code, and then they get away with it. And I think it's important that we set a standard and we encourage people to follow the law in all aspects, and so I'm for option 2.
Member Thomas?
I'm fine with option 2. Did the law director have a preference, or did she just say it was up to us?
It's up to us.
Okay.
Yeah. I would concur with the 3 of you. Ironically, you remember the situation on Grosvenor where the gentleman wanted to put the fence across the alley, and we took it through the process and we voted for it after he had gone to code, filled out the form, paid his money, followed the procedure. I received an email from him this week thanking us as a council for listening to our constituents and working within the system. And he has a 2-year-old child, and he's very happy he can get this fence up so that, yes, they will watch the child, but the child doesn't wander down the hill. Debbie, or Clerk Walker, I think if you would help this week draft such an ordinance, we'll bring it up for first reading next week. Item number 3, Comprehensive Plan Review Advisory Commission. I have to apologize to Member McCary. I didn't get your email until late today, so I didn't have an opportunity to ask you if it was okay if I shared that with council. So I hate to put you on the spot, but I would like to do that. Very quickly, this has to do with the Comprehensive Plan Review Advisory Commission that was established way back in 2006. And I'll just read one paragraph. There is hereby created and established a commission to be known as the Athens City Comprehensive Plan Review Advisory Commission, consisting of 7 members to be appointed by City Council, consisting of 2 representatives of the Neighborhood Association, 1 member of the business community, 1 person with relevant expertise from Ohio University, and 3 members who are qualified electors of the City of Athens. Ex officio members shall be the mayor or his or her designee, a member of the Planning and Development Committee of City Council, the city planner, and the county planner. And to set the conversations first with the mayor and then the public, what I'd like to share with you very quickly is what Mr. McCary sent to me today. This is long-term planning in small U.S. municipalities, best practices. And best practices, 3 bullet points, I think sum this up very, very well. Define clear roles among the mayor, council, planner, and commissions. I must admit, and this isn't in Mr. McCary's write-up here, I must admit that I think we got 2 cars going from the finish line at the same time, one directed by the administration and one coming out of council, particularly this committee. Bullet point number 1, clarify the responsibilities of the mayor, execution, administrative function, city council, policy and funding, city planner, coordination, and commissions, public feedback and oversight. Bullet point number 2, codify roles in charters, ordinances, or procedural documents so that we know exactly what the ordinance says. And number 3, and this is the key one, promote collaboration and avoid duplication across bodies and departments. And I think that's very important, and I think we started out with some duplication. So I'll turn it over to the mayor and then the members of the community and members of council, and we'll see where we go from here. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, no, I appreciate council going through this exercise and reconstituting this commission, and would encourage us to continue to do this every 5 years at maximum. Because so much is predicated upon how much of the comprehensive plan we accomplish. I mentioned this to council before, I'll mention it again. The 2007 codified comprehensive plan, when I became mayor in 2016, when I looked at the comprehensive plan and read through it end to end, I recognized right away 80% of what was in that comprehensive plan we've achieved. Why wait till 2027? And that, for whatever reason, this is no fault to anybody, nobody ever reconstituted this commission to come back every 5 years, and that commission can look different because of who becomes the electorate from the city of Athens that are serving, which is a good thing, because it should be a dynamic document. As I've mentioned before, this is the people's document. The comprehensive plan belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to council. It doesn't belong to city administration. It belongs to the people. My charge is to make sure that we are hitting the marks along the way with the comprehensive plan and council codifying this to become our roadmap moving forward. So again, the last thing I'll just say is kind of to reiterate that we should be doing this on a regular, at the most, a 5-year plan looking forward in time. Each year, each 5 years, we reconstitute, doesn't have to be the same people, reconstitute this commission and see where we're at and see what we need to do in terms of updating or what's new out there to include into the comprehensive plan. Because again, we're a college town and we have so many brilliant individuals at OU that may view some things differently about the trajectory of the city, and that input's, I believe, is invaluable to us.
Thank you. Members of the community, members of council. Mr. McCary.
Thank you, Chair Swink, Micah McCary, Windsor Place, current council member, speaking on behalf of myself as a member of the public, but also to add to Member Swink's comments earlier, to give context to the best practices that I emailed to him just this afternoon. They were in response to an invitation from our city planner to meet to discuss some of her philosophies and ideas for our comprehensive planning process. So in my own research, I did look to authoritative documents and research on best practices for comprehensive plan updates and public input and due process, and I'll be happy to share that with members of the administration and with council. They're just 10 researched best practices that I'll be meeting with the city planner to discuss tomorrow.
This is quite the document, and well referenced, by the way. I'd like to see your dissertation. So, at the last meeting, the mayor shared with us that Planner Jennings, who happens to be my neighbor, had gotten some interest from some people being on the comprehensive plan that would be on a committee. And I got to thinking a little bit. If you give somebody a fishing pole and you send them down to the water, they have a good chance of catching a fish, depending on their level of expertise. And that fish they catch may be worth eating, and it may be just worth throwing back. But one pole, one fish. But if you give somebody a net, and they go down that same body of water and throw that net out there, there's probably a good chance that they're going to catch a lot of fish. And out of those fish they catch, they're probably going to get several that are pretty good, worth eating, not throwing them all back. So what I did was I prepared a document here, which I'll send to members. And Beth, come up here. I'll give you some of these and give to the mayor and the other council members out there and the treasurer. You can send some down that way. A short little questionnaire. And here was my thought, that we develop some kind of questionnaire. It could be something as simple as this, where we're simply asking the particulars: name, address, phone number, email, and 4 or 5 very, very simple questions. How long have you lived in Athens? Why do you wish to serve on the commission, and what relevant experience do you have in this area? And then the next 2 questions I think are very important. Please list 3 items, areas in the comprehensive plan where, as the mayor said, significant progress has been made. And the next one, please list 3 items, areas where little progress has been made. I think those answers would be very telling. First of all, we find out who read the comprehensive plan in the first place. And secondly, their objective evaluation answering those 2 questions. We could put this on the city website, or however we collect other information, and then the city planner, who on that document that Mr. McCary sent us, would serve in the role of coordination, and perhaps a couple members of this planning committee cull through those applications as a group. Those 3 people, because it would just be 2 people in the planning commission. We would not be violating the sunshine laws. We would not have a majority, but it would be that collaborative effort, the administration and council, who narrows this list of fish that we catch down, and then present those folks to council for consideration, because at the end of the day, the way the ordinance is written, it's council that approves those people. So I think this does 2 things. One, as the administration and members of council working very, very closely together to cast as wide a net as possible to identify the best people we can find out there. And secondly, we follow the plan that's outlined in the original ordinance from 2006, filling the spots, and therefore able to put together a committee that this council can vote on and approve. That's just one thought. Because I think last time we may have gotten off to a bad start. One group was doing their thing, one group was doing their thing, but with Mr. McCary's document today, I think it made it very, very clear that we need to do this together if we truly do value this comprehensive plan. So other members of the committee, because I agree with you, Member Svelnis, I don't think we need to get into building a house out of single square Lego blocks. I think we can use much bigger blocks and be more expedient with our time and our efforts. So comments from other members of the committee and thoughts on where we go from here. And again, this is a simple draft. This is certainly not etched in stone. It's a starting point.
I think it's really important. I appreciate you putting this together. I think it's really important that we do have some kind of screening tool that's more objective, and I think that's a really good idea. So I really support this. We might want to tweak this just a little
Yes,
bit.
good. Strictly a draft.
And we may need to put in things like which of these categories do you belong in? You know what I mean? So we know. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
But other than that, I think it's really good. Thank you.
Other members of the committee? Not to put you on the spot, Mr. Mayor, but I would throw it back to you. Would this be a workable plan as a starting point?
Sure.
Okay. What would you suggest next steps then would be?
Using all of our media outlets to sit there and get this out to people, or at least to announce, and then we can probably, I don't know, use some platform. I'll work with, or you can work with Scott and Ryan. We can work with the government channel to figure out what's the best way to get a very simple questionnaire out to people, or maybe we just keep it really simple.
Yeah.
Here's 3 questions we would like for you to answer, and then as you indicated, I mean, council will cull through those, the planning commission go through, and you guys can decide who the 3 exemplary people are to serve in that capacity.
Mr. McCary, would you like to take this up with the city planner tomorrow when you have your conversation? Move this along?
I'll certainly summarize. Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
I'd like to.
Yes.
Sorry. Anyway, since you've written this as sort of described dissertation sort of thing, and we haven't read it yet, are you comfortable with this? Is this what you proposed, or is this fit with what you consider best practices?
Yes, I did just summarize some research into 10 best practices that I just hit send on to get it out to council and to our administration. I only had correspondence with Planner Jennings this afternoon, so she only got it earlier today as well. But this does fit with the philosophy and the intent behind making sure it's an inclusive process for identifying who the central people on this committee would be.
Okay.
Thanks.
Member Thomas?
So just for clarity, first, so we are looking at just 3 members of the public, or the neighborhoods, the community, business community rep, the OU with relevant experience, and those 3, 9 members we're selecting, or 3?
So, Mr. Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong. I think when it's come to OU on various things, they provide their candidate, or their person. It's kind of a formality. The neighborhood associations, there are 2 technically active, 1 growing. I think that the near east side is with Porch Fest and some of the other things, not at all? Just you, okay. But the far east side and the west side are very, very active. So coming from that group.
Okay.
So that doesn't leave a whole lot, you're right.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if we were talking just the 3 members of the public or more. And then do we need to go back and address any changes if we want to add neighborhood reps? Even if they're not in an association, change the wording so that it's from distinct areas around the city?
I think in those 3 people, that'd be very wise to make sure, if we have somebody from the west side, from the far east side, and those other 3, let's try, that would make perfect sense to me. And again, I think that's what's the value in casting that very, very wide net. Yes, ma'am.
Also, along with the idea of, making sure that we're setting the policy, there was a discussion about making sure that this is every 5 years. Are there some things that we need to change in the process ordinance to codify that regular process, and any other processes as part of that? I mean, I think I'd argue to not have too many processes, because I think the committee ought to do it, but saying every 5 years or some other kinds of rules we want to set in there, if we want to make those changes, I think we should do that.
Yeah, I think we could make this a little bit more specific.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm talking
that's bullet
about.
point number 3 here, codify roles and charters, ordinances, and procedural things. And I think the mayor referenced, why wait till
Yeah, exactly.
somebody, you haven't done this in 7 years, we need to do it, let's get it in print.
Right.
So that
So we
can,
might want to just review to see if there's anything else like that.
right. Okay, yes, sir.
I could be wrong on this, but I believe that the comprehensive plan as it exists right now, Vision 2040, speaks to reviewing every X number of years. And so maybe it could be something as simple as having a line in there saying, could be reviewed every 5 years as per the comprehensive plan, page whatever. Just
Sure.
let the comprehensive plan be the dynamic document that drives all of this.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe 20 years from now, we're absolutely perfect, and there's nothing that we're going to change.
Oh, yeah, right.
That would be nice. One last thing, if you go back to the original ordinance, there will need to be a member of the Planning and Development Committee of Council, meaning one of the 4 of us that serves on this committee. So if anybody has a burning desire to jump on that, let me know. Other comments? Mr. President, that concludes the Planning and Development Committee meeting for this evening.
Thank you, Chair Swank. We will move on to Finance and Personnel, chaired by Member Reisner, joined by Member Wood, Member Clodfelter, and Member McCary.
Log me out. Okay. We have 3 items for Finance and Personnel Committee. The first is appropriations, $30,000 to Water Fund Professional Services, awarded from the Ohio EPA for abandonment of unused wells, which I think this is kind of neat because usually it's the other way around. In the past, it's been the city that's been fined by the EPA, and we've had to shell out a few bucks. But that has been a while ago. So this is an item that will come up, I believe, next. Is it on tonight or next? Is this a first reading tonight?
No.
No. Okay. Next week then. So I'll open it up to public. Mr. Mayor, you want to say anything about this? You need $30,000?
This is a reimbursement as well. I mean, so once we abandon these wells, they're on the north end of the Armitage Road or Armitage well field. They are basically, one is on the north side and one's on the south side of the Columbus Road bike path spur. So these are no longer of public service or water treatment plant service, so to deactivate them and then get reimbursed for them is great.
Are they going to be completely removed, all the structures, the equipment, the pumps, everything?
I'm not 100% sure on that, or as opposed to a capped well, but I can get that information for you when it's up for first reading.
It seems like some of the equipment might be salvageable.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Some of these wells have a lot of wear and tear associated with them, but I can certainly get more information as to what will happen with the wells and whether it's capped and anything salvaged from it. I don't recall.
Well, it would just be nice from a viewpoint that, once the structure is gone, that it really is gone. So, but at the same time, you don't want the well to leak anything down, so.
Yep. Absolutely right.
Right. Okay. Any comments out there from the public, including council members? Well, then I'll hit these council members. Any comments from the committee? Member Clodfelter.
I too would really hope that the abandoned wells are kept safe so nothing will leach. And also, it's been a while, but maybe other people in the room also remember baby Jessica, who fell down a well and sort of launched CNN. So I would hope that the top of it is also made safe so that nobody could intentionally or inadvertently get in there.
No, these will be completely covered and protected, so no one will crawl inside them. If they weren't, that, as was indicated previously by Councilmember Reisner, would lead to a pretty significant EPA finding, and the City of Athens would be in.
Any further questions? Committee? No? All righty. Well, just moving right along here. Next item. The 2025 staffing, amend O116-24 and O121-24 to change operations specialists to program specialists and adjust pay grades. And what I understand here, the staffing levels are to reduce the community center operations specialist from 2 to 1 and add a program specialist, athletics and fitness, 3/4 time in the community center and 1/4 time in recreation, and amend ordinance 11624, non-union compensation, to reduce pay grade 2 operations specialists from 2 to 1 and add program specialists, athletics and fitness to pay grade 5. So there we have what the proposal is. Is there any change to it, Mr. Mayor? So as far as you know, it's fixed?
No.
Okay. Anyone out there in the audience, including other council members? No? Member Wood?
Are these new positions that we're filling or
No.
refilling?
The way I understand it, it's just basically changing a description from one thing to another because the job duties are changing, and there'll be a better fit. That's correct, Mr. Mayor?
That's absolutely right. So again, we have an individual retiring who's the operations specialist now. And so this would change to another classification that already exists, which is program specialist. A lot of what the work was historically for our operations specialist was doing a lot of the scheduling, but we use Civic Rec now, so we think that that Civic Rec platform will cover a lot of that. So it is a pay grade increase for when you go from operations specialist to program specialist, but the person who is retiring is maxed out, and so it's basically a zero-sum gain, or expense, I should say, not gain, expense moving forward to bring someone into the program specialist position moving forward. So it's just being more strategic about the positions down at the community center.
Okay. Is there any deadlines or things to meet on this? No. Great. So we give the 3 readings then.
Yeah.
All righty. And last but not least, non-union fringe benefits package, amend O11724, educational requirements. And if I can have my sheet back. Thank you all. I'll read the pertinent facts. I think everybody knows that our city engineer, who I think has done a really good job the last few years, is for some strange reason planning to leave his position with the city and actually retire. So the administration would like to appoint Jared Balderson as the next city engineer and director of public works prior to securing his professional engineer's license, PE license. So the way I understand the situation is that it's very hard to find a civil engineer out there with all the necessary licenses and qualifications to come. But we do have some people in-house who have the experience and the know-how, but they don't have that PE certification. So the idea is to bring Mr. Balderson in without the license, but on the condition that within 2 years he will have received his license and would be fully qualified, up to code, and everything would be yeah, as it should be. But to do that, we're going to have to make some modifications to the what is it, the non-union fringe benefits package to make it legal. Is that it, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, pretty much. I will add, thank you for talking about the difficulty of finding individuals with their PE, professional engineer, to take on a position of this. It's even more difficult to find someone with their PE or soon to have their PE who also has management skills. As you know, Jared Balderson has been the plant manager down at the water treatment plant for many years now. Outstanding individual. I did an interview with him along with their service safety director and was very pleased that he is interested and willing to take on this role. One in which, as you indicated, our current Director for Engineering and Public Works, Sully Alabaja, is retired once already, was an amazing score for the city of Athens for someone who had worked for ODOT for as long as he did and then wanted to continue employment with the city of Athens, but he has indicated that he, by the end of the year, is ready to retire.
Discussion out there?
Alan Swank, Fourth Ward. During this time period, until Mr. Balderson gets his PE certificate or whatever the correct title is, I would assume there'll be some things of an engineering nature that someone will have to sign off on. Can that be done by Director Stone? In other words, do we have internal people that can do that, or?
He can do that.
We can't.
He can. I mean, it's just the requirement that we put in place some time ago is to have a certified, professional engineer working in the city, but he has the ability to be able to sign off on various things associated with that position. We are putting, as I think you indicated, and if not, I'm going to mention it now, and that is that there is a conditional clause to this, and that within 2 years he has to successfully pass his PE. He has all the educational requirements are all done. He's just never sat for his PE.
Sat for the test, okay.
Correct.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Any others? Members of this committee? Member McCary.
Thanks. I just want to say I'm very supportive of this. In my interactions with Jared, we've seen him be not only effective in handling questions from council members on tours, but even students I've taken to the water plant a couple times. He does demonstrate those management and educational and, of course, practical skills.
Excellent. Member Wood?
I just want to commend this person for being brave enough to try and step into Saleh's shoes. Must be very bold and offer thanks and praise to Saleh for the immense work that he's done over the years. I mean, just so much down to minutiae to the high level stuff. Has just been a great public servant, and so want to recognize that, as I'm sure you already are. I know the mayor has mentioned many times, and just wanted to pile on the praise for that.
Thank you.
Well done. Any further discussion on this topic? It'll be brought forward on Monday. Okay. Well, that concludes finance and personnel.
Thank you, Member Eisner. We are moving on to City and Safety Services, chaired by Member McCary, joined by Members Reisner, Swank, and Thomas.
Thank you, President Crowell. We just have one item on our City and Safety Services Committee agenda for this evening, and that is our annual Washington County Jail contract, giving us the ability to send those who've been arrested by our local police force to stay in the Washington County Jail at a cost of $100 per day per inmate, and this is something we do each year. It's a good deal for us. There are occasionally some additional expenses that can come into consideration in case there are medical expenses that the person who's been arrested incurs while in the jail. But other than that, this is an annual contract that we tend to approve unanimously, and I'd offer invite any comments from the mayor first before I go to the public and then back to council.
Thank you, Councilman McCary. I would gladly offer comment to this. I mean, this is an annual renewal that we go through. In the past, we often had to use this, especially at this time of year when there was a bit too much festing going on in the city of Athens. I'm proud to announce to council tonight that with Palmer Fest having closed out on Saturday, it ended by 4:07 p.m. As opposed to 3:04 a.m. in past years, with no arrests and no incidents, and only one ticket issued by the code enforcement office that goes through and has to cite, on occasion, people for having excessive litter in their front yards. So I'm saying that not tongue-in-cheeky at all. I'm saying that because I think that needs to be recognized, and I want to say a huge thank you and congratulations to this behavior change that we have seen with the student body during our festing season, to where we had very, very few incidents that occurred this year during Mill Fest, High Fest, or Palmer Fest. And so that is my thank you to the student body for celebrating responsibly and recognizing that the police department is more than happy to help you shut down your house because you have a lot of people that you don't want in it anymore. Usually before 4 p.m. Anyway, this is an annual renewal, like I said, for bed space when we find ourselves in a situation to where there is no bed space in Athens County.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll just add that this contract would begin May 1st for an annual period. And any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the committee. Do any committee members have questions or comments on this contract? Member Swink.
Do you have any idea what we're paying per day to Southeastern Ohio Regional Jail? Reason I ask, in talking with a member of the legal community, they have a pretty big vacancy sign out front right now. And I'm just wondering, obviously logistically it's easy to get people over there compared to Washington County, but $100 a day seems very, very reasonable. I'm just wondering what we're paying here.
Can I just comment on that real quick? I know I'm kind of out of order here.
Yes, please introduce yourself and share your comment.
Sorry. Sylvie Spelness, First Ward. So at the Regional Planning Commission meeting, they said that that STAR facility is essentially for sale, is my understanding. They're not using it anymore. So they're trying to figure out what to do with it. Anyway, there's more to that. That's all I heard.
Which facility?
The Southeast Ohio, the jail there, the STAR facility.
Ah, interesting.
So.
Thanks.
It's kind of like SOPEC trying to negotiate a better rate if we could.
I would agree that $100 sounds very difficult to beat, but do we have any other questions or comments from committee members? Okay, seeing none, Mr. President, that concludes City and Safety Services for the evening.
Thank you, Member McCary. We now move on to the Transportation Committee. This is chaired by Member Spelness, joined by members Clodfelter, McCary, and Reisner.
Okay, here we go. All kinds of things to talk about today. As you are aware, we had a lot of rain recently, and that lot of rain created some problems. So, as was formerly mentioned, there was a rock that fell in a house, so that was one thing, and many of you probably had some flooding or know people that did, but it created a big problem on Joneswood, which I think most of you have at least heard about. So here's the thing. Because of how the slippage situation, we need to deal with that badly. The road, you've probably seen pictures. I know I saw some online. So from Andy Stone, an emergency appropriation for the Joneswood slip. It's now, the road is closed for traffic. We need to conduct an emergency slip repair, not surprisingly. Need to appropriate authorized to be determined amount from out of 220 Transaction Code 500. Furthermore, he said, I would likely request to suspend the rules, declare an emergency, and declare a real and present danger to obviate the bidding process on this one. You can obviously see why. And if we want to have a chance of getting it reopened in the next couple of months. So he doesn't have the cost estimate yet, but asked us to please put it on the agenda. I talked with Clerk Walker, and we're going to have that on the agenda for next week. So any comments, questions, concerns about that? Mayor, do you want to say something first?
Sure, because there have been individuals concerned on Columbus Road or businesses on Columbus Road. As I have been briefed, the slip that includes the singular home is likely to, if you look at it, well, don't go up there. I have seen it firsthand. The garage is completely collapsed. The foundation on the front of the house is exposed. The back of the house is failing. What I understand is the toe of the whole slip area, which is basically the bottom of the slip, would go about a quarter of the way down that slope side. It will not, as I've been told, cascade down into Columbus Road. But it will be a complete loss of that particular property. The property was vacant at the time. As we have been told, half of the road has slipped away. It'll be interesting to go up there tomorrow morning to see after the rainfall that we experienced today, because there's a lot of area where that failure has occurred, to where you can see some scarping, which now is filling with water. That's just adding to the problem on that particular property. There is access to the homes basically to the south on Joneswood, and then also up Terrace Drive to get up to the homes on the other side. So Sully Alabaja seems to feel pretty comfortable that at this point anyway, the utilities are, we have a plan. There's been some shoring for the utilities already. There is a plan, if there's further disruption, to put a auxiliary water line in up there. But it's basically going to be where they have to put some pier pilings in there to shore up the Joneswood Road and get it open again. And so they're working hard and quickly. So we're working with the contractor. Part of the contract is we look forward in time, because this is a true and present emergency for the residents up there, to also work with a contractor to identify existing materials. That would be I-beams, because that's what will be used for the pilings to drive in. And so that will be helpful for us too, so we're not having to worry about potential supply chain issues. So there's a fair amount of confidence on the city engineering side of things to be able to get this done, but just asking council to make note that this could be anywhere from a $500,000 to $1 million project to protect one of our city assets and part of a neighborhood.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we have a speaker.
My name is Barbara Stout, and my father, who is 95 and will be 96 in 2 months, lives 3 houses down from this slip on the other side of the road. I was just there today, so if anybody cares to look, I have pictures that are current as of 5:30 this afternoon, because I had to go see my dad. So if any of you want to see this, I can bring it over here.
Just swipe through it. And you can pass it down. Just swipe through them. Gosh.
I can still get to my dad by driving all the way out Columbus Road and coming up Terrace, but it's difficult. It's down to one little lane, and when I was leaving, somebody else was coming up, and we had to do this joggy thing. And things happen, I know, but that road has been slipping for a year. I drive there all the time because I have to take care of my dad. And it was obvious that that road had a huge dip in it, and nobody did anything. I mean, I don't know, anybody looks at it, who's responsible for it, but it was really pretty obvious that that road was going to slip, and then we get the really heavy rain and it just catastrophically gives away. But we've been commenting in my family that the road was slipping. And I'm concerned for my father because, like I said, he'll be 96 in June, and he lives alone, and, you know, we need to get there to see him on a regular basis, and God forbid one of these days we have to get a squad or something up there. So I just want to urge you, this is really, really, really urgent. I mean, it's not something you can fool around on. It's really bad, and I'm really worried for my dad. So please, move fast, okay? Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I'm sorry to hear about that situation. And another one.
Yeah, Michael Wood, 249 Highland Avenue. Want to thank the administration for putting this forward as an emergency action. Obviously, everybody, all hands on deck. Appreciate that a lot. I got an email today from a constituent about this, and they mentioned or asked if we might also explore some traffic calming measures at the same time. I forwarded that to the mayor, and Andy Stone replied as well. Thank you. But I think it'd be good to take this as an opportunity to think about that space in general, the wear and tear from large trucks coming up those roads due to Google Maps routing and other fun things contribute to this. And people are sent up that road as the most direct route uptown. And I think it'd be great if we could explore also some other traffic calming measures at the same time, take an opportunity to turn lemons into lemonade maybe, to decrease traffic, period, on those roads and wear and tear that goes with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, seeing none, I think that we can do this next week. We need to, clearly. So, all right, thank you. Let's move on to event closure, Juneteenth. So, the reason that this is being discussed separately is because it came so much later than all the others, and we want to get the other one taken care of one way or the other. So, this was submitted a couple of days ago, and the Juneteenth committee membership submitted it. We've been doing this for, let's see, 5th annual festival, and we want to continue, or they want to continue the tradition. So they put in quite a bit of information. Of course, Andrew Chicky saw this, so he's good with it. And one of our members, Micah McCary, is on this committee membership, and Lacey Rogers, who works for the city of Athens. And also I noticed that Brandon Thomas, who is in the audience, is also on this committee. So some specific information, it will be from 3 to 6 p.m. on June 19th, not surprisingly. And they will need a vendor ordinance as well, which I spoke with our clerk of council about. So if you're in agreement with that, we can do that next. They don't need a noise ordinance given the time and everything. So the event location will be OU's College Green, West Portico, and Howard Hall site, as well as Union Street from Court and Union to Union and University Terrace, top of Jeff Hill. I think everybody knows where that is. The event brings people together to learn and celebrate and includes local vendors and artisans, community outreach organizations, music, family-friendly events, and educational outreach opportunities. So there will be no alcohol, there will be portable bathrooms, etc., all the things that are normally needed. So, any discussion from the mayor about this? Okay, anyone from the audience, considering that we have people who... Okay. Any discussion from the committee? Yes.
Thank you. I will just clarify that this year, the 19th of June falls on a Thursday, which is a bit of a change in tradition where this committee had formally tried to do this on a Saturday where folks would have a little more availability with their work schedules. But in this case, we have the prior weekend being the Columbus Pride Festival, and then the Saturday following this Thursday, June 19th, will be the Nelsonville Music Festival, both significant conflicts. So this year's celebration is scheduled for the actual June 19th holiday.
Okay. Thank you for that information. That's helpful. Yes.
Any comments from OU, particularly the administration?
Well, there are people from OU on the committee, so I'm assuming that they have some standing and will know how to handle this. Anybody else have any comments about, and obviously, Micah McCary is still at OU.
I am, thanks.
Still.
We're hoping that stays,
Boy,
that stays
that's
put.
kind of ominous.
And also Russell Morrow, the, I think I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
The Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at Ohio University, and the Athens NAACP is on the committee as well. So I'm going to take that as a yes, that the Ohio University is okay with this. Okay, so barring any other concerns, we're going to put that forward as an ordinance. Oh, I'm sorry, yes?
Not a concern, but I just wondered, I thought it was nice that Brandon Thompson decided to attend today, and just wanted to invite him to say any more that he would like to about this event.
Brandon Thompson, 10 Coventry Lane. Yeah, I mean, the university is aware. This shift has happened because of the university stepping away from, normally it was sponsored completely by the university. There are university people on it, but it's more communities focused for this one, and I think that that's helpful or whatever. But they are aware because we had to formally put in the request for, College Green or whatever for the event. But we're trying to expand away from that. But yeah, they're aware, but less of a partner, but still a partner on some level, if that's helpful. So yeah, and just trying to do something different, like Councilman McCary mentioned. This is Thursday, it's typically been Saturday. This may move to Friday, depending on, we kind of figured with people having the day off, more people could show up, and it's very hot in June, and so the idea being, people could show up, have a good time, but not. So it's a little different, but a number of people from the university are part of this as, we figure out more things from what the government's telling us and whatnot, so.
Okay, thank you. So again, we will need two ordinances, one for the street closure and one for the vendor for next week. Okay? That is it for the Transportation Committee, and we can move on.
Excellent. We will move on to special session as our members rejoin us on the dais. As a special session, there are a limited number of agenda items, but the first is to establish quorum. All council members are present this evening, so we have quorum. And now we move right into ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 32-25 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to suspend temporarily the fee for parking at metered spaces in the municipal parking garage on certain dates in December 2025, introduced by Councilmember Spianis.
Yeah, this is an annual process, and we're trying to encourage people to shop downtown. So giving people a little break in December of this coming year. And so I'd like to move that we pass this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Are there any comments or questions? City Administration? Anybody in the audience? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 33-25 is an ordinance suspending Athens City Code Section 7.05.03, continuous parking in the same location, from Sunday, December 14th, 2025, through midnight on Sunday, January 11th, 2026, introduced by Councilmember Spianis.
Yes, thank you. So again, this is something that we've been doing annually. This is an opportunity for people to, if they go on vacation during that, or leave for campus or faculty during that period of the break at Ohio University, they won't get a ticket or their car towed while they're off, so it gives people a little bit of a break. And so I move that we vote on this ordinance, pass this ordinance.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for approval. Are there any comments or questions? Council members, city administration, audience members. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 34-25 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids where necessary and enter into contracts for construction of the State Route 682-56 intersection improvements project number 357, introduced by Councilmember Spianis.
Yes, as we've been discussing, this particular plan is to create a roundabout for safety reasons. And as I had mentioned last week, I had some concerns and others had about the sidewalk that I mentioned before. The ODOT and the administration has promised that it would continue a little further than what we first was proposed, so that the sidewalk towards Kershaw Green along 682 would extend to the Margaret Creek Bridge, making that very treacherous part a little bit safer. So with all of that, I ask that we move to pass this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Are there any comments or questions on this ordinance? Member McCary.
I will just second Member Spielman's appreciation to the administration for figuring out a solution to the sidewalk issue as best we can.
I'd love to have it all done, but one step at a time. There we go. Okay.
Council members, any other comments or questions? City administration? Audience members? All those in favor of this ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Excuse me. Ordinance 35-25 is an ordinance authorizing engineering and construction of the Athens Streetscape Beautification, project number 383, introduced by Councilmember Spianis.
Excuse me, I have to recuse myself on this one. But also, I don't remember the second reading on it. I'm pretty sure we haven't had a second reading, but I have to.
It's red marker 17.
Either way, I gotta recuse myself.
What's the number on it? 30 what?
35-25.
Yeah, we did on March 17th. Yeah. Yep, it's on the agenda. Oh, he wasn't here that day.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we did on the 7th.
Yeah, I have it on the 7th. April 7th was the second reading.
That's on.
Second reading, but first reading.
Oh, I thought he was asking about the first,
He was
He said
wondering
second.
why it was at second reading.
oh, at third reading.
It was on the agenda on the 17th.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Yes. Okay.
We got a motion and all that? or-
Yep.
Okay.
We haven't done that.
No, we have not. We're moving directly into Member Spianis's introduction.
Yeah, so this is the much-discussed streetscape beautification, the uptown beautification with new curb cuts and lighting and a whole host of other changes that will make it, the uptown more appealing, more interesting, and look a lot better. So hopefully we'll draw more people to come to Uptown to shop. So, let's see. And importantly, as part of that, the overhead electrical lines will be buried, et cetera. So, whereas the city has received $6.5 million in Appalachian Community Grant Program Round 2 funds for said project, the Service Safety Director is hereby authorized to enter into contracts for engineering and construction of the Athens Streetscape Beautification, Project 383. The 2025 appropriation ordinance 115-24 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance a sum of $6,500,000 to Appalachian Community Grant Fund 905, TC 500, and increasing the total appropriation by said amount. Section 3, the Service Safety Director is further authorized to expend up to $6,500,000 from Appalachian Community Grant Fund 905, TC 500 for said project 383. So that's it. Any comments or questions?
Would you like to make a motion?
Oh, with all that conversation I thought I had. Okay, I'd like to move to pass that. Second amendment.
We have a motion and a second to approve 35-25. Are there any comments or questions? City Administration? Public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Can we invite Member Wood back? Ordinance 36-25 is an ordinance authorizing engineering services for design of the Columbus Road Lift Station, project number 359, introduced by Member McCary.
Thank you, President Crowell. Ordinance 36-25 falls in with our conversation about all the great developments on Columbus Road, and we need to address the sewage needs there, particularly replacing outdated equipment. So, as previously discussed, this project will replace 2 sewage lift stations that are undersized and at the end of their useful life. The first on Door Lane, Columbus Road number 1, and the second on Theater Lane, and will support the new hospital and expected growth of the surrounding area. Section 1, the Service Safety Director is hereby authorized to enter into contracts for construction of the Columbus Road Lift Station, project number 359. Section 2, the 2025 Appropriation Ordinance 115-24 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the following sums: $120,000 to CDBG Fund 248 and $1,630,000 to Sewer Fund 750.637, and increasing the total appropriations by said amounts. Section 3, the Service Safety Director is further authorized to expend up to $1,750,000 as follows: $120,000 from CDBG Fund 248 and $1,630,000 to Sewer Fund 750.637 for said project number 359. I would move that we adopt ordinance 36-25.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for adoption. Are there any comments or questions? City Administration? Members of the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 37-25 is an ordinance amending the 2025 Appropriation Ordinance 115-24 and authorizing the auditor to make an interfund transfer, introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt 37-25.
Seconded.
Just to refresh our memories, Section 1, $18,393.24 is to the Transportation Assistance Fund 214 to pay the balance of the city's 2024 local match to HAPCAP, and $340,000 to Sanitation Fund 360, and increasing the total appropriations by said amount. Section 2, the auditor is hereby authorized to make the following interfund transfer from Internal Service Fund 865 to Medical Insurance Fund 866, the amount of $15,588.83. Thank you.
Is there a motion, Member Reisner?
I made one
Oh, I'm
before
sorry.
we began.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Are there any comments or questions? City Administration? Members of the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We now move on to ordinances for second reading. I will read the ordinance number and the title, and then pause to see if there are any comments from council.
Oh, I've got some recusals.
And some recusals. Thank you.
Get your 10,000 steps in.
Ordinance 29-25 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to close streets in the Uptown area for the Dora Kickoff Book Fair, the Plains Lions Club Cruise-Ins, the Pride Street Fair, Boogie on the Bricks, Ohio Brew Week, the Athens Community Arts and Music Festival, Bounty on the Bricks, and the Halloween Block Party, and to change requested dates or cancel the events as necessary. Introduced by Councilmember Spianis.
Again. So, thank you. This one has not been pretty. But to explain why we're seeing it again is because we did not have enough, according to Elisa Eliason, our law director, sent an email after our meeting last week. And I will go through this, not everything, but on April 7th, Athens City Council amended, suspended the rules, and adopted ordinance 2925 street closures. Of the 7 members of Athens City Council, 2 recused themselves due to a conflict of interest, thereby leaving 5 members eligible to vote, deliberate, and participate in discussion. 1 member of Athens City Council who was eligible to vote was not present at the meeting. 4 members of the City Council were present. The City of Athens is a statutory city and bound by the provisions of Ohio Revised Code. There is a question as to whether there were enough votes for suspension of the rules on Ordinance 2925. The answer is no. There were not enough votes for suspension of the rules. So it says I won't go through exactly what it says, but trust me, that's what it says. Anyway, for Ordinance 2925 street closures, 2 members of Athens City Council recused themselves due to conflict of interest. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, same thing. Since suspension of the rules requires three-fourths vote of those members eligible to vote, not of those members present, all 4 members present would be required to vote in favor of the suspension to reach the required 3/4 vote. So, therefore, it returned to first reading, which we did, and now it's at second reading, and we need to discuss this again. So, there was a question because one of our members chose to vote against it due to some concerns about a conflict of 2 events happening September, or proposed to happen September 6th. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk about what those concerns were and how we might want to consider that in our deliberations. So first of all, we received an email from Javier Hernandez, the Director of Ticket Operations at Ohio University in the Athletic Department. He spoke out saying that he had concerns about the football game and that would take, he said, if you add 10,000 people to the crowd, you will have an idea of what should be expected on September 6th based on what you normally see. On its own, this will be a massive strain on traffic, parking, police, and other operational staff. This will be exacerbated by the fact that many of these additional attendees will have never set foot in Athens before and will not know how to navigate the city. This is not the case for typical large crowds at homecoming where the majority of additional attendees are alumni or OU staff. So they wanted to have the Brew Week, the Fall Fest, changed to another date. So I reached out to Brandon Thompson, who is available in our audience to back up this discussion, and he disputed this and said that he felt that that he could not change the date of September 6th, and proceeded to say, we've had the Fall Fest since 2017. We've picked this weekend because of its proximity to the warm air, and early September still affords, and we cannot move up or back a weekend for 2 reasons. One is that he'll be out of town and can't handle it the week before, and it would be Labor Day weekend. So we wanted to hold an event when our students could participate, because a lot of students may be out at that time. And also moving up a weekend puts Ohio Brew Week on the same weekend as Pawpaw Festival, which we share the same crowds and concepts, and feels that it would be a net loss for both local events, which are within 15 minutes of each other. So therefore, Mr. Thompson feels that does not work to move up or back. and so we can appreciate that. I further reached out once again to Andrew Chicky to further consider both these comments and letters. And Andrew Chicky, who has shared this with Andy Stone and our Mayor Patterson, he said, "While I can't speak for the university or the position on Fall Fest, I can say that I have already been working with OU on logistics for this football game. Specifically, there are plans being worked on to have additional parking in strategic areas around the city that are either within walking distance to the stadium or through shuttle service from locations that are a little further than walking distance. OU Transportation and Parking Services is actively working on this, and I've been involved in those conversations. What I can speak to is the city's ability to support Fall Fest, no different than any other street closure. The city will be able to accommodate the street closure and will adjust operations as needed for any and all events and activities around the city if council authorizes the closure." So therefore, with these in mind, I would like to request that we move to pass this ordinance.
Second.
We would need a suspension of the rules.
And we need a suspension of the rules
First.
because of the timing. So do I?
So you make a
suspend
motion to
those
suspend the
first?
rules.
Yeah. Okay, so I request that we suspend the rules to consider this.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules for ordinance 29-25. Comments or questions from city council members? Member McCary.
Thank you. Just want to confirm with Member Spielnez, it sounds like the Deputy Safety Service Director did receive the latest email information with concerns from our
Yes.
colleague in athletics with,
Yes.
and has indicated that he has designed plans to mitigate those challenges.
And he has been.
Okay. Thank you.
Other members of council? Okay, all those in favor of suspending the rules for 29-25 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the rules are suspended, Councilman Spielness. Councilwoman
Okay,
Spielness.
so once again, we're going to try to vote this in. We haven't asked anybody from the audience.
They don't, on the suspension, but now, once you
Yeah.
make a motion to approve, then
Right.
we'll go and have a conversation.
Okay, so I move that we pass this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 29-25. Any comments or questions, Member Swank?
Yeah, I've still got some concerns. And looking at the application, well, first of all, going back to this letter from Javier Hernandez, I would say he has the biggest authority of anybody in town on what this is going to look like. In fact, he says, "In my role on the staff, I have as close a grasp of the attendance numbers of OU sporting events as anyone else in the city. Andrew Chicky's assertion that the city has dealt with similar crowds on many occasions is dead wrong. Picture the largest homecoming football crowd that you can remember seeing in Athens. If you had 10,000 people that crowd, you have an idea of what should be expected on September the 6th. So in looking at the application here, I have some concerns. It says, "My event has received a street closure before." I requested from the clerk, and yes, in 2024, on September the 21st, we did have this event. But looking at 2023 on the list that we have, the ordinance, unless we added it later, there was no event in 2023. Does anyone recall adding this later? So yeah, we did have it last year, but here are my concerns. My event will be limiting access to the public or will be controlling access? The answer is no. We're going to have 30,000 people a few blocks away with an event with no limiting of public access. Secondly, my event is hiring additional private security personnel. The answer is no. My event will be plastic free. The answer is no. My event will have food vendors. The answer is probably not. Member McCary would probably know this as well as anybody, any university-sponsored event, and granted, this is not a university-sponsored event, if you're going to have alcohol, you have to have food. Correct?
I've not heard that. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are my concerns. I appreciate the fact that Mr. Thompson here, he just lives down the street from me, and he sat through 2 hours and 5 minutes of rather mundane things this evening. And Brandon, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but were you aware that the WVU game was that weekend, or was this just the only available weekend that fit the schedule?
Are you asking me to come to?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
Brandon Thompson, Director of High Week. No, I set this a year in advance. This has been the same weekend. The reason you don't have anything on the street is we did on the parking garage years before that. So the event has been worked so well, we actually moved down to the street last year. And so I set this week, just like I shared, because it's Labor Day weekend and also between Paw Paw Festival. And there's no requirement for food because there is Goodfellas, BW3s, and Jackie O's. So I try and work with the local food, as you know, with street closures, a lot of people do not like when food trucks are put in front of that. So, and there's no requirement for law enforcement with the F permit, and then it's open. The F permit area is cordoned off, but it's free to the public, so you can come into that space. You're not allowed to take alcohol out, just like any place in a bar and stuff like that. So we're under those same rules.
Okay, because Labor Day weekend is actually the weekend before.
Correct.
Okay, so you were trying to avoid Labor Day weekend?
Correct.
Plus, that's the first weekend that OU students are back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the weekend of the
Paw Paw Festival.
The Paw Paw Festival, you didn't want to compete with them.
Correct.
Okay. I still have concerns. I mean, it's a great event, believe me. I support
No,
it.
I understand, and I appreciate you sharing those concerns.
Yeah.
My concerns, because I've been watching this, is that council's doing their best, the administration's doing their best, but none of y'all know this, and so there's a lot of everything you shared is correct. Athletics is worried, but I've not heard exactly what the concern is. Is it that we're not going to be able to hold the crowds, streets, people aren't going to drive through? That's my concern, is that it's not been articulated what I'm doing wrong. It's just there's concerns, and that because OU says this and we have no idea what's going on, should the rest of the city of Athens shut down? I don't believe so. I know I'm in a very popular area, but we had this during a football game last year. It's my feeling most of those people aren't going to come by. They're going to walk by, and the sidewalks are open. I think that's the other thing. We're not restricting access to anything. They can walk by like they will, and they'll probably eat at Pigskin somewhere else, but they'll probably skip our event or go home. I'm hoping they come see us, but for the most part, this is the alternative for people who don't want to go to the football game.
Yeah, I guess the concern is not your event, and I'm going to be very careful how I say this because I don't want to mischaracterize anybody, but it's going to be the size of the crowd. This will be the largest crowd for an OU football game in history. Secondly, it is the opponent. And
very close.
What is often associated with games where that opponent is visiting nearby out-of-town competitors. And I guess what I'm trying to do here, and we used to have a thing on our refrigerator. I mentioned this before. It said people spend 90% of their time worrying about things that'll never happen.
Sure.
Well, this is one of those 90%. And I hope they both go off fine, but I certainly don't want to be sitting in Athens, Ohio on the 7th day of September where we had a disaster the night before. And this, with the size of the crowd, as Mr. Hernandez says, with people's unfamiliarity with the town, a music and beer fest up on Court Street, I'm erring on the side of caution. And that's why I brought all of this up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, I've watched and I've been trying to understand, again, what is it? Will there be too many people there? What are we worried about? Should we shut down all of Court Street? And I think, I don't know, I appreciate what you're trying to do. This whole thing has been helpful because I think I'm concerned because, last week there were only 3 people voted. There's a smaller group of people, and this feels contentious, and not contentious, that's the word, but when we suspend rules and stuff like that, it should be the full council. We can't do that. And again, it just feels like I was going to be told I couldn't do this event because concerns. Again, not directly. I haven't heard is it going to be overrun? It's just concerns, and that's a very vague way, if that makes sense. If it's safety, worried about fights or something like that, but I just have not heard that, and I don't know. I don't like hearing that, if that makes sense, and I know we've talked about this, and I know we're trying to get this figured out, but I think there's something about street closures, and I feel like council, I've spoken about this before, like, we're just not quite there yet, like, we're just not quite, this discussion doesn't, as a director, as an event, doesn't feel good. But I've been doing this for 10 years, and I've also been doing Halloween even longer, like, I have more knowledge than anybody up here, but it feels like I'm being told I don't know what I'm doing. Even the application, yes, the application does not have most of the things that are needed, because I just pick the date, then I fill it in. That's, I do the same thing. And, some people may know that, some people do not, but watching the videos, it felt like I didn't know what was best, for the event and whatnot. And I say, you're err on caution, because biggest game ever, it could be anything, or it could be fine. I don't know, but the idea of one of our nonprofits not being able to do one of our signature events because athletics, who may or may not want a certain thing, feel that their event is too big for the rest of Athens, I think is just a little blown out of proportion, is what I'm saying. And so, but happy to be here and wait 2 hours to have this conversation with them. But I feel like there's a better way to do this, and that's not anything on anybody up there, but we just have to do better for this, because this is such a small, like, we spend so little time on street closures, but it's such a public-facing thing, and I feel like we are continuing to get it wrong in some way by having to even have to do this. I feel like this should not be an issue, if that makes sense. No offense to you, obviously, it could be anybody saying this. I just feel like it's an issue, like, to me, I have to come up here and speak to this, if that makes sense, So, but yeah, are there other questions I can answer about this, or?
Member Clodfelder?
Yeah.
Not really a question, but I would just like to present maybe an alternative perspective on what this crowd might mean at the same time as this event. I think if thousands of people do show up from West Virginia who've never been here before, that having a really good community festival happening would present Athens in a good light. Some of them might walk right by it, but some of them might stop and linger and see what it's about and enjoy it. And I think it will make Athens look like a fun, interesting place to be. So, yeah, I'm glad to know Andy Stone is thinking about how to make it work well. I trust him, and hopefully it'll smooth things out. But I think, it's possible that having more people come to your event will be a good thing.
Any other council members? Member McCary?
Member Swank mentioned the plastic-free event status, and that this is not one, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was my recollection that we did attempt to make all of our festivals plastic-free by 2023, and I'm wondering if anyone can remind me about how that relates to this.
I believe it's city-run events.
Okay.
So this is not a city-run event. Yes, Member Swank?
Going back to Member Clodfelder's point, people aren't coming here for a quilt show. They're coming here for a football game. And in a football game, you put numbers up on a board and keep score. The worst possible scenario would be at the end of the day, not if you're an OU fan, but if you're a West Virginia fan, to drive over here and have West Virginia with fewer points than OU has. If you've ever been to a major college football game, that is not a pretty scene. We can't control that. And again, perhaps I'm erring on the side of caution. I would ask Mr. Thompson, though, you used to have it at the parking garage. Is that no longer a viable?
It is viable. The reason we've moved is, one, if anybody's been up there, you can't get anything up there because of the clearance.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So, yeah, the big issue, we expanded and visibility. So if you know about the event, you're going to it. If you don't, there's no visibility to see it because you can't hear anything. So working with Andrew Cheeky last year, he's like, if you're interested in this date, feel free. And it worked out last year. And so the reason being, we can bring in all of our vendors and all of our tents and everything like that much easier. Like anything above 8 feet, I think, can't get upstairs. Anything with a trailer does not get up to the parking garage, which severely limits what we can do there.
Well, you and I have trouble walking through there. We're not 8 feet, but it's
yeah. So, but that's been the big thing, is being able to get all materials in there in a timely fashion. We have to actually use we have to park the U-Haul in front of the elevator and go up and down and up and down. It's actually horrible. And so being on the street laws, just pull the U-Haul up, get everything in and out as quickly as possible. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to vote for this with grave concern. And I just hope that what the folks are telling Member Spellness come true. But the fact that you've come here and put time and effort into this, it's a reluctant vote, but I think that'll make this a unanimous decision on
No, I
This
appreciate
council's
that. I
part.
said, I feel a certain way about it, but I appreciate you raising the concerns. I just feel like there's a better way to work through it, if that makes sense. Because what you shared, the rest of the council didn't know, and so then we were kind of like, okay, I don't know. And then like anybody tuning in would think that I have no idea what I'm doing or any other, and that's not what you intended.
Right.
But that's what I'm talking about. This process. Anybody watching this would be like, oh, 10,000 people, how will they handle it? Beer, all this. F permits do not require security. They do not require. There's many things that people do not understand about that. They think, oh, there's no food requirement. We have that, but there's no requirement when I pour beer to do that. It's a good idea. Don't get me wrong, but there's no requirement for that. I don't need officers and things like that. And I get worried about that when other people see this and think, oh yeah, Councilman Swank's completely right. And then all of a sudden, a nonprofit gets shut down because of some concerns. Again, that are not. You're right. If something were to happen, maybe it's on me, maybe it's not. Maybe they destroy all of Court Street. It's very possible. Or maybe nothing happens. But my concern being, it's our 20th anniversary. And that's what we're trying to do this and have fun. But I appreciate the vote. But there's just a better way. I don't know what it is. I've been saying I want to help you out with it, but please, let's get closer. We have less people up here, which means less discussion, which makes, I think, even harder to make these things happen. Again, I've been doing this for 10 years, officially with y'all, but 15 unofficially. I feel like some of that knowledge is just kind of being saying, we know what's best for y'all. That's not, I think, what council's job is. I think safety and stuff like that is what we're trying to do, but it feels like picking and choosing what's best and without having to explain why, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's what you intended, but that's how I received it. And I'm sure other people doing street closures would. And I think other people are probably less polite than I am, and so I'm trying to do this properly with y'all and do it best. But I appreciate the vote, and neighbors come and talk to you and see you on a Monday night. But yeah, thank you for the votes and everything like that, and hopefully I don't have to come back. So thank you.
We appreciate you, Mr. Thompson. I believe one more comment, Member McCary.
Thank you. I was hoping that the mayor might be able to confirm my understanding that in a situation like this, the Deputy Safety Service Director would coordinate with APD to provide additional police coverage. Is that the case?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, great.
With any event of this nature, we continue to coordinate as well as with the Ohio University. And if I may take a moment, I'd like to make a comment.
Please.
Over the weekend, I called the president's chief of staff, Carly Leatherwood, and spoke at length with her about the position of the university on said event, and there was no concern coming from the chief of staff with this event. I also want to take a moment. I was the president or the chair of the board for Ohio Brew Week for 4 years. And during that time, the last call was created with some notable people, John Glazer, as well as Dan Gates. I also served on the board when Brandon began working. Prior to Brandon, it was Weston Lombard, and prior to Weston Lombard, it was someone else who I'm completely blanking on. It's irrelevant. And I've seen Ohio Brew Week perform responsibly when it comes to events in the uptown area. I had some current concern the first year that Mr. Thompson came to us and said he wanted to do something on the 6th floor of the parking garage. In full disclosure, my concern was mostly over the fact that we had just resurfaced all the flooring, driving surfaces in the parking garage. But again, I went up there, I attended that event and pulled it off in strong fashion. And so there was no incidents during that time as well. Brandon knows what he's doing. Brandon's been doing this for not only 10 years, but he also has been deeply involved in some very, very large events, i.e. working along Jonathan Holmberg for dozens of years with the Halloween block party, where there was tens of thousands of individuals who are coming into the city of Athens. And again, in my opinion, managing not just one stage, but 2 stages. And I think at one point in time, there was actually 3 stages that were used, with one in the Cornwell parking lot. And so I just want to say that out loud to the viewing audience as well as to council. I understand exactly where Brandon's sentiment is coming from with some of the comments that were made. I think as a nonprofit, one of the things any nonprofit is always going to want to do is to not tarnish their brand. That is rule number 1 when you're running a nonprofit. And I believe that Mr. Thompson knows exactly what he's doing in moving this forward. So Brandon, I applaud you for the work that you've done. Like I said, I've seen you do it firsthand when I was on the board, but also being the mayor and not on the board anymore.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other council members like to say?
I would
Member
just like
Spells?
to follow up with what Member Clodfelter said. My thought was, if they're upset and they hear music, maybe that'll divert their attention. So it could be a really good thing. And if you don't have vendors, you have restaurants, right? So I don't know. That seems great to me. So I'm gonna say let's vote on this thing.
Any other elected officials like to speak to this? Any audience members? Yes, please.
I know this is
Just remind us your name for the
My name
record.
is Barbara Stout,
Thank
and
you.
I own a business on Court Street, and I don't have anything against any particular event. That's not the sheer number of these events. Do you know how often you're closing down some portion of uptown during the summer? I mean, I'm already sitting here going, well, we'll just close the store on that Saturday. Okay, well, I'll just close on that Saturday, because nobody can park. I can't even park in my paid parking spot half the time. I can't access it. It's really not good for business. And before I moved back to Athens, I lived in New York City. I'm used to having a street fair or something that, like 1, 2 in a year. This is a small retail area, and it gets closed down almost every other week and it's always on a Saturday, which is the only day that's worth being open during. It's really catastrophic for business. And I could handle it a little bit. There are 8 listed up there, and you're talking about a couple things that aren't even on the list up there. That's a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else from the public? Yeah, yes,
one
please.
other thing, just something to add, something to think about for the future. The mayor and I just spent last 2 Mondays and this evening talking about income tax, and one of the biggest concerns we're hearing it, expenses and tightening the belt, budget. I think it would be a decent idea as this year progresses if we tracked what this costs the city when we do these. Because obviously we just brought up, it was just asked, are we gonna have extra police on hand for a very large event? What does that cost us? So I think it would be responsible of us as a city, based on all the feedback we've just gotten in the last 2 weeks, I think it would be responsible of us to actually try and track that to see what this does cost us to do these, to put on these events, and how many we're putting on, what does that cost us for the year? I think if you do the research, you'll find, there are other towns that might charge a fee, as they close down the streets, like a permit fee or something like that. But that's just something for the future, just to throw out there based on, where we've had a lot of comments about city spending, and now tonight we're talking about, we're gonna have extra officers for this, extra officers for that. So just something to think about for the future.
Thank you. Member Swank?
Yeah, to Treasurer Thomas's point, and to Barb's point, in 2023, on February 20th, this council approved ordinance 0523, 18 events. 2024, on March 24th, ordinance 01524, this body approved 18 events. And we basically are approving about that many tonight. That's a lot of events. So yeah, I think your point is well taken. Do we just roll out the red carpet and we vacuum and clean up and all that, or do we, take a serious look at this?
I mean, I'm just suggesting, based on what we've
But the feedback,
been hearing. in the
well,
last
I was
couple
both
weeks.
press conferences and the one today. I heard it loud and clear.
Mr. Thompson?
Brandon Thompson, 10 Coventry Lane. I also agree we should probably add to that, what our benefits are coming from that cost, but also what are we also getting from that? Because I know there is a cost, and that is not lost on this. And what are we getting? Are we looking at overnight stays? Are we looking at different spending and whatnot? I think there's a way to cap. Currently, I'm not required to share any of that with all of y'all. So when I do my event, I could tell you whatever I want. I actually don't have to tell you anything, but if that could be part of the application or something like that, the city wants to do that, track that, I think that'd be helpful. How many overnight stays do I think I create? How many, did I not do any? I think that'd be helpful too, the perception and whatnot, because it always ends up being dollars, which is important, but there are other things that come out of that. I think bringing that, I think we're starting to build that, so thank you for your comment and everything like that. I think that's really important, but there are things that are not seen by the city that I think we do see its value. And how do we calculate that? I don't think council has that answer yet. But I think if we keep working on that, we're gonna get there, because there's value in these street closures, you know. How Brew Week is 20 years old. It's the first week-long craft beer festival in the nation. Started here, you know, with a street closure and whatnot. And so we have the top 5 weekends for the county. And as far as overnight stays, like, look it up, ask the Visitors Bureau, like, that's from our event. That's not every event, but I think there's a different way of looking at it and whatnot. So I think if we're gonna create that document, I'd love to see that as well. Like, is it overnight stays? Is it, you know, spending that day and whatnot? You know, there's probably ways to look at some that don't do anything. You know, there's some traditional stuff that I think could be looked at better, but also I think just looking at the dollars could hurt more than it could help, if that makes sense. So with that, y'all are ready.
Good point. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Dawson.
you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance 29-25. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Okay, I'll remind us that we are on second reading, and I'll go back to the reading the title and see if there's any comments. Ordinance 39-25, as members Thomas and Wood get back settled, is an ordinance amending ordinance 08-25, authorizing the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids where necessary and enter into contract for construction of the rehabilitation of the Stimson Avenue Bridge, amending the 2025 appropriation ordinance 115-24 and ordinance 30-24, authorizing engineering services for said project number 358 and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Spianis.
Okay, I'm on deck again, so here we go. Once again, this Stimson Avenue Bridge is...
This is second reading.
Do you need to do anything here for second reading?
Yeah, so
Okay.
this needs to, again, suspend the rules because we need to get going on this thing. So, I move that we suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules for 39-25. Are there any comments or questions on the suspension of the rules?
Yeah, why are we suspending the rules?
Member Spianis, why are we suspending the rules?
Oh, God, I've gone through this so many times. Okay, so, I'm sorry,
No,
it's
we
not
can-
your fault. Okay,
Hey,
so,
Let's just stay here
there's
all
some
night.
timelines that we have to be, let's see. At second reading was spent to add, there was spent its first review, add new ordinance to the old one. So this has gone on for such a long time that we need to make sure that we meet a deadline,
Which is,
which I don't see here. Let's see.
Is this a request from Director Stone?
Yes.
Okay, that helps. We already passed the deadline? We already passed the deadline.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's been so much back and forth about this. But what essentially happened was that, long story, so we passed this to proceed. However, we got some ODOT money for the project that reduces the local money for the project. This increase reduction amounts don't match exactly, as this is from Andy Stone, but overall it's still several $1,000s less in local funds that are going into this. So we're essentially changing that dollar amounts.
so we're making an amendment.
Yes.
I believe it's already been amended, right? This is just a suspension of the rules at the second reading.
Yeah, is that right? It's been a long day.
It's getting longer.
Mm-hmm.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. The reason from Councilmember Spianis is that it is been requested by Service Safety Director Stone. Any comments or questions on the suspension of the rules motion? Yes, Member McCary.
Thank you. I'm just saying in section 3 that this would be an emergency measure in order to meet an Ohio Department of Transportation funding deadline. And I believe I heard that deadline is passed and that's where the urgency is, but I was trying to seek clarification on when that deadline is or was.
I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Last month.
Okay. So it sounds like that would be a reason to do it urgently, but I'm not clear on whether we've missed the opportunity entirely.
I'll just ask Member Spielness if she has any communication from Director Stone after the 25th of March, where he indicated that it would be welcome to suspend, to get it done and off the plate, but he doesn't need us to.
My last that I can find is March 13th. So I had the impression that we needed to suspend the rules for this one based on an earlier conversation.
Doesn't sound like it.
Anything to add, Mayor Patterson? Okay, so we have a motion to suspend the rules and a second. Member Swank?
Since we're having a special session, we've already missed a deadline. And if we don't suspend the rules, we can go through the 3-reading process and pass it next Monday as an emergency clause. We've already passed the deadline. I think we need to be a little more judicious with our suspension of the rules if they're not absolutely necessary.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Member McCary.
Yeah, I would agree. That makes sense, especially since we're not clear on the implications of having missed the deadline. That gives us a little time to understand what's going on.
Any other comments or questions on the suspension of the rules?
Okay, I'm willing to take it off since we do have a meeting next Monday.
So the initial motion has been removed. Does the second, who seconded?
Yeah, remove it.
Remove, okay.
All
So
right.
we have, it's been read for the second time.
All right, fine.
Thank you. Ordinance 40-25 is an ordinance declaring certain police department firearms and other equipment no longer needed for a municipal purpose, introduced by Councilmember McCary. Ordinance 41-25 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a perpetual amended easement and right-of-way agreement with Columbia Gas Transmission, LLC, for continued maintenance of existing water and sewer lines, introduced by Councilmember Swank. Moving on to an ordinance for first reading. Ordinance 42-25 is an ordinance authorizing participation in the Ohio Department of Transportation's Cooperative Purchasing Program and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Spielness.
Okay, this is the one that does need a suspension of the rules. So, whereas Section 551301 provides the opportunity for municipal corporations to participate in contracts of the Ohio Department of Transportation for the purchase of machinery, material, supplies, and other articles, whereas the City of Athens has authorized funds in the 2024 budget for the purchase of road salt, and therefore submits this written agreement to participate in the Ohio Department of Transportation's annual winter road salt bid in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, and hereby agrees to all the terms and conditions, et cetera, be it ordained by the Council of the City of Athens. City of Athens hereby agrees to be bound by all terms and conditions established by ODOT's winter road salt contract, and acknowledges that upon award of the contract by the Director of ODOT, it shall be bound by all terms and conditions included in the contract. The City of Athens, Section 2, the City of Athens hereby acknowledges that upon the Director of ODOT signing of the winter road salt contract, it shall effectively form a contract between the awarded salt supplier and the City of Athens. Section 3, the City of Athens agrees to be solely responsible for resolving all claims or disputes arising out of its participation in the ODOT winter road salt contract, and agrees to hold the Department of Transportation harmless for any claims, actions, or expenses. Section 4, the City of Athens electronic order for sodium chloride road salt will be the amount the City of Athens agrees to purchase from its awarded salt supplier, et cetera. Section 5, the City of Athens hereby agrees to purchase a minimum of 90% of its above requested salt quantities from its awarded salt supplier during the state contract's effective period in 2025-26. Section 6, the City of Athens hereby agrees to place orders with and directly pay the awarded salt supplier on a net 30 basis for all road salt it receives pursuant to ODOT winter salt contract. Section 7, the City of Athens acknowledges that should it wish to rescind this participation agreement, it will do so by written emailed request no later than Friday, May 2nd. So therefore, we need to get on this.
Yeah.
So that explains. Okay, and then Section 4, it's emergency. This ordinance shall be an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of health, welfare, and safety, etc. So there you go. It's the usual salt thing we do every year.
So please make a motion.
Okay, so request to suspend the rules for ordinance 4225.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules for 42-25, given the dating of the need to purchase this road salt, as expressed by Member Spielness. Any comments or questions on the suspension of the rules? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The rules have been suspended, Member Spielness.
Okay, so I'd like to move that we pass this ordinance so we can get some road salt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 42-25. Any comments or questions from city council members? Member Reisner.
I'd like to go on the record that I'm in favor of salt. Thank you.
Member Wood.
I would like to go on the record saying that Member Reisner might even be classified as salty.
It's getting late. Anybody else?
Oh, man. Okay.
Administration, anything to add? Mayor, anything to add? And members of the public?
I think it needed it.
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. And we are at adjournment. Thank you, everybody. Have an excellent evening.